Hello, everybody. Happy Monday to you all. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. J.
Listen, we just we're coming off of our Thanksgiving weekend, and I was really curious, by the way. Do you guys have, I lived there for 4 years, but I don't remember if you had something like
No,
Thanksgiving weekend.
no, we don't, unfortunately. And I think, I don't know, we don't have that many holidays in Australia. It's kind of the standard Easter, Christmas. I mean, we're trying to make Halloween work here. I don't know that it's ever really taken off.
Yeah.
Maybe with the advent of Twilight, that's helped a little, but it's kind of a bit lame. It's not like North America, James.
Oh
We
my
don't
gosh.
do it as well.
Yeah.
You guys
We,
go all out.
Halloween this year, I made a candy shoot from the second story of our house down to the first story with lights for the kids. And it started in COVID. And now every year I'm trying to up the game. And my hopeful goal is to be able to shoot candy over the house to the front yard. But I need to have kids sign a waiver before we get there because we're in America and I'd probably get sued if I hit a kid in the face.
We're coming over, James. We're coming over to Oregon. I've been promising the kids we're going to where Twilight happens. We're coming to your place next Halloween. No.
That's fantastic. You'll be in Portland, probably.
Portland, yeah. I would love to bring the kids over. Would absolutely love to.
Portland's beautiful. Bend is more beautiful, but Portland is very beautiful where I'm at. So, hey, today, we've got a great little episode we're going to talk about. Second to last episode of the season next week. Just a banger of an episode to close the season out with Warwick Fairfax.
Banger. Keep it till the end. My goodness.
Yeah.
They're not
we'll kind of just drag it through as we go here. But today we're going to talk about finding the fun in adversity and turn your life into play. And I think for me, I wanted to start off with kind of an anecdote that I thought was really interesting when I was thinking about this topic today. Before we came on today, Vanessa and I were talking about ages, and I'll leave Vanessa's out of it, but I'm 49. And my dad died at 49. And he died of congestive heart failure. And I remember I've come from a very traditionally messed up American family all the way through. My mom's Canadian, so maybe it's just North American in general at this point.
I didn't know that about you, James, that you were Canadian.
Yeah. I'm actually working on my citizenship because college is way cheaper there than it is in the U.S.
Well, I knew there was something I loved about you. More. There it is.
And I just thought it was the white beard coming in with the goatee, but we can leave what we talked about that earlier, what that was called. And so when my dad passed away, obviously that's a very, very emotional point. But talking about play, we were going to the cemetery, and my brother and I, because we are so highly competitive and just dysfunctional, probably on some level, we were literally counting the cars of another funeral procession leaving to see if we had more people coming to my dad's funeral than to that person's funeral. And we were trying to make fun and laugh in the moment around the idea of how absurd that we were counting, how absurd, all these crazy things and jokes. And so for me, adversity in my house, and I'll bring you in a sec here, is how much fun can we have in making fun of just the ridiculousness of the situation? Because it's just so absurd and ridiculous. You have to laugh about it type of moment. And so when you write about this, Vanessa, and you talk about this from your perspective, for me, I can say why it's really important, but I'd love to learn from your perspective why you see this notion of playing with adversity. And what does that mean, really?
Yeah, absolutely. As a organizational psychologist, a lot of people don't realize that play is actually something that we've been studying for, decades and decades and decades. And it is actually proven that intentional play at work and in your life not only leads to higher performance outcomes, greater creativity, enhanced optimism and resilience, but obviously a more fulfilling life. And if you can actually get into the space, and it feels like the most, unlikely and inappropriate way to switch your brain, but if you can actually switch your brain into a place of play during those tough moments, actually you're going to get through it a lot faster, but also you're probably going to end up with greater outcomes in the end. And there are lots of stories actually, James, around, and I did a lot of research. I've done a lot of research in this space, looking at the difference between survivors that have kind of survived tragedies and just regular, everyday folk that haven't gone through everything, and looking at what is it that separates them. And you find that often it's actually this mindset of treating adversity as a game, or finding the play in life, purposeful play in life, and then carrying that on into their work and their careers later on down the track. So it's not just me kind of talking and trying to make it for play. It's actually very well documented. And sorry.
Well, no,
and yet
go
ahead.
Sorry, Vanessa, go.
I was just going to say, but the issue that I see, and why I'm so glad we're talking about this today, and I'll hand over to you in one sec, is that, how often do we actually put fun and play at the top of the priority list as a value at work? We don't. They don't go hand in hand, and we're actually missing out on something very, very magical that can happen when we do. So that's a bit about why it's so important. Over to you.
Yeah, so I think, what's really interesting about this is, one, I've been probably mislabeled as unserious at times. And it's not that I'm not serious, it's that I don't take life that seriously. And for me, there are serious moments for sure. Kid gets hurt, maybe struggles in a marriage. Like, there are serious moments. I'm not trying to play light with those. But I've always just found in the work environment, there's nothing so serious 90% of the time, maybe 95, that would require me to have a 4-alarm fire and freak out. I left my startup of 4 years, multiple $100,000 spent on this thing. I'm probably not going to get it back. And yes, was I depressed? Was I sad? You bet your ass I was. But I think to your point about the play and adversity is that when I started to let the clouds leave and the sun come back in, I had to find humor in something, because if I didn't, then it was allowing me to give that adversity power. And so I'm always wondering around the idea of adversity in play, and even the competition in there. And I think you're using play. I'm using play in like sarcastic humor. You're using it maybe also in a competitive nature as well, kind of both. Do you find that there is a process and an arc for individuals through their adversity into the play, if you will?
Yeah, look, I definitely see a psychological arc in individuals who actually have this as a capability. And I think, I love how you just kind of coined that, because what that tells me is that yes, you experience the darkness, but you don't stay there too long. You're actually able to hack yourself to get out of it quickly because of your mindset, which is, some of the most successful leaders that I've ever had the privilege to stand alongside or work with or meet are able to switch into that quite quickly. They don't take life too seriously. They stay light, they go deep. They're able to turn adversity into almost a challenge, if you will. It doesn't mean that they don't experience the pain or they don't go through situational depressive moments, but again, they're able to flip quite quickly. And I'll be honest with you, James, I've always struggled because I'm completely inappropriate. Being, a Greek, Italian, Dutch, Norwegian, we are completely inappropriate. And growing up in Australia, I'm just not. Sometimes I look at people looking at me and they're thinking, who is this person? She's so bad. Like, shut the hell up, because I just don't care.
Yeah.
And I have to manage that because I don't want to offend people. But I definitely have a big sense of humor as well. And I think having a sense of humor and stepping into life lightly means that you do bounce back a lot more quickly. And it's definitely served me during my life, going through, some very tumultuous times and having to deal with some pretty big tragedy in my own life. But what has actually got me through is my ability to laugh at myself and life, and just get through. Do
you find a difference? Do you find a difference when you're working with leaders or just humans? Those, like, I'm thinking to myself about delineation of personal and professional, and I feel like professional. I guess my question is this: I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this that makes sense in my head and out loud, which doesn't always coincide at the same time. When someone is taking things too seriously, what's the impact of that in the long term? Like, I'm curious because I'm thinking about the personal and professional, and I want to shelve the personal because I think that's a different process of recovery and getting to play. And some people get there fast, some don't. But I think professionally wise, I'm thinking, what about those in positions of influence and power that get there and stay there? What's the ramifications of that?
Yeah, so what happens is, and I see it all the time, and I guess I'll just share with you part of, I think, why my clients choose me is because I can break them out, I can snap them out of it. I snap them out of it pretty damn quick, right? And they really love that. They love the fact that I go in and they see me, because great leadership is about great energy. If you're like Chicken Little all the time, you are not attractive to people. People don't want to be around you. They're not inspired. They're not enlightened. They don't buy your energy. And as a leader, if you walk in with Chicken Little dark energy, no one wants to be around you. So actually, your ability to empower the organization, to empower the people around you, to give them the motivation and energy to sustain and play the long game is limited if you're showing up as a freaking dementor that people want to vanquish, quite frankly. And so we have to be very mindful of the energy that we bring in, and bringing a level of lightness and levity and belief and optimism that actually drives a very different experience for people in the organization. And it starts at the top.
Yeah.
It starts at the top. Yeah.
I think one of the things I always see as a mistake is when you think about an organizational adversity moment, maybe it's 3 bad quarters in a row, maybe they're being sued for something, whatever it is. I see the way they communicate internally to the organization is so bad usually. Like, it's so bad. And usually it's predicated on almost half truths or partial truths, or not being direct and honest, but trying to be sometimes overly sunny and not being truthful and direct. And then how can we work on this adversity and generate the energy around the solution or the opportunity? And that's the play opportunity in my mind. But I too often see organizations kind of like either tell half truths or overly optimistic truth, which then is assuming people inside the organization are stupid. Like, they're not aware of what's really happening. I don't know. I don't know if you find that, but I always kind of feel like that's a general thing that happens in organizations. And I don't know why.
Oh, definitely. I think you've absolutely got to be honest. And then it's about, to your point, it's about switching to solution mode. And so just a great example of this recently is working with the CEO of a company, and people were really, let's just say, brought down by the size of the challenge that was before them, really extreme challenge. And a lot of people were feeling very Chicken Little-y, let's just call it, in that moment. And so the CEO did an amazing thing. He said, well, we were doing their, balanced scorecards and quarterly review. And what he did is he said to them, okay, let's treat this as a game. What did you do last quarter? I'm going to give a prize to the team that can beat the quota from last quarter. And here's what the prize looks like. So he's turned the challenge into a game with quotas and targets with a reward attached to it, a fun reward, to enable them to flip their mindset quite quickly. So let's see who's going to win. And they're a hyper-competitive group anyway. They're high performers.
Yeah.
And you know what? They absolutely nailed it. They actually exceeded the quota and the target that he set based on him treating it as this extreme challenge as a game. And that's things that you can do to actually kind of really reset your mindset and your rethink, particularly when you're not feeling it and you're not feeling things are so bad or, so stressful that you're not necessarily feeling the fun. So he led powerfully in that moment. And what I loved about that is, he turned he stepped into and drove the emotion of fun versus through that challenge that he set versus the treating fun as an activity. I always find it really interesting when I'm doing culture transformation and you start talking about fun, and people just see fun as an activity, and it actually that's not what I'm talking about. Fun is an emotion. Fun is fun is an emotion. It's about building the emotion of fun within your environment, the emotion of fun within your culture. It's not just about doing stuff.
Well, let's talk about that, because I was thinking about that notion of, you're kind of I have two thoughts quickly. First thought is, people don't want to be made to feel like this is an activity. They want a purpose behind that activity, whatever it is they're building onto there. But that aside, I'm really curious on your thoughts around the notion of like the role of turning adversity into fun, but the outcome of that is creativity, and the notion of creativity. And the reason is, and I'd love you to add some color to this, at least in my opinion. The reason of that is that when you couch adversity in a way that is competitive or curious, or more specifically, growth mindset oriented, it allows people to move from that, to your phrase, Chicken Little, which I love. Kind of makes you feel like a little kid, but Chicken Little. From that Chicken Little phase to this, giant, I guess, chicken giant. How about that? I don't know. But like this other phase of, okay, I'm not stuck here. I actually have a choice in my behavior, and I have a choice on how we attack that behavior. And so, unpacking what I just said, tell me more about the role of creativity that can come out of adversity when the mindset of the organization, the leader, is right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. There's this, there's Ken Robinson. Ken Robinson talked about the fact that by the time we get to adults, creativity is basically knocked out of us.
Yeah.
And look, I would agree. I think how many leaders I work with, and I say, you are creative, and they say, no, I'm not. I'm not creative. And everybody is capable of creative. We're born creative as human beings. I mean, you only have to look around at everything around me, even in my backdrop, that was created by human ingenuity. Yeah. We are naturally creative as human beings, but we forget that we are. We forget that we are, because logic and reasoning and facts and numbers and figures are what dominates our educational process. Yeah. Creativity is only just coming back in as something we need to focus on, because the world realizes that we can't solve for tomorrow's problems with the same logic as we did yesterday. Mm-hmm. So finally, the weirdos are being celebrated. Thank goodness. I have a place in this world now, right? But very much it is around the fact that, when you have a childlike sense of wonder, when you are open, when you are curious, when you experiment, when you try things or deliberately do things that go against the grain and are a little bit naughty, things start to fire from a creativity lens. When you break yourself out of old patterns and try different things, you start to see different synapses firing, and you see the world through a very different perspective. Mm-hmm. And that comes through purposeful and intentional play, where we make it a priority to get into that fun, uninhibited state, so that our brain starts firing quite differently and we start to see the color of this world more clearly. But it does take dedication, and we've lost that. We've lost that in organizational life, which is something that I very much try to bring in. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story, and I hope he's not listening today. The head of a major mining corporation that I've been working with told me he wasn't creative, and he was stuck, and he was very linear. And I thought, what can I do? Because he was such a stickler, really boring. What can I get him? I'm going to challenge him to do something that's going to totally terrify him and take him out of his comfort zone and find his childlike wonder. And I knew that he loved cars. I don't want anyone to judge me. And I said, mate, you know what? I dare you to try something new. I dare you to feel the fear and do it anyway, and show yourself that you're not such a boring, grey thundercloud. I dare you to a car race, a drag race on the Graham Farmer Freeway. And I know how irresponsible that is. I know everyone. I'm being honest. This is me. I'm, going against the grain.
No judgment here, Vanessa. No judgment.
I get in trouble all the time, right? I get in trouble all the time. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I've got this really hot car souped up. You've got this hot car. Meet at 10 p.m. Saturday night, Graham Farmer Freeway. Let's go. He goes, bull. I said, no, I'm not joking. Meet me there. I dare you. I'll be waiting. Gave him the coordinates. He was there, and we had a race.
That's awesome.
But awesome. And, I'll tell you what happened. So I got done by the speed cameras.
Yeah.
He got away. I got done by the speed cameras. He texts me, says, mate, that was the most exhilarating freaking thing I've ever done. I feel alive.
Yeah.
And honestly, it actually short-circuited his neural hardwiring. And then he just went up and up and up in his career after that. He opened himself up. He went and took a side move into marketing. He said, man, thank you so much for reminding me of what I've been missing. And he's a rebel now. He's a professional rebel. He always was, right?
Yeah.
But he needed a bit of a job. And look, I was happy. I was happy to give him one, although I had to pay $400 fine. Going at 150. I know, very responsible. I know, safety first. 150 in an 80 zone. Yeah, that was
good
me.
for you. Way to push
the. Great. I'm not going to lie. I loved it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I was thinking, we only have about 10 minutes left here. I was thinking about this notion of the outputs of creativity. It's not only from the leader. I'm doing a facilitation in a few weeks with a healthcare system here in Oregon. And what I love is that the CEO is trying to figure out how to solve problems, and he's not trying to do it in the traditional strategic planning method. And so we are going to be doing this using appreciative inquiry and a growth mindset and co-creation. And we're really focusing on the best of what was, is, and could be. But what I love about it is that one of the activities they have to do is either act out a future scenario or they've got to create a newspaper article of what the future looks like with the headlines, sub-headlines. But the whole goal is to get them to be thinking not what was, but what could be through creativity. And like most organizations, when they're stuck, which is an adversity moment for them, like we aren't hitting our numbers, we are shrinking, we're losing market share, whatever it is, they need to think of a new method through play. And when we think about that, I think about the idea of when you allow the organization to do that, the role and impact on performance it has across the organization. I'd love to hear an example of maybe an organization you've worked with where they started embedding pockets of play, or the leader really vocalized the need to have it, and what happened with the permission. It's really permission and fear of judgment being removed that allows that thriving to happen. But I'd love to hear kind of an example as we're bringing this to a close tonight.
Okay, this one's going to just be, this is totally off the wall, and I can't say who it is. That's a large organization working with the CEO who's just a bomb. He's just an absolute legend in his own lunchbox. And he inherited this very governmental mindset, institutionalized type organization that was just stagnant. And so he asked if I could help culturally to just re-spark, reignite, re-empower the culture and create an experience. And so, and people were collaborating and so on. And so what we did is we trained up the organization. This is going to just really small, 100 people, small organization in dancing, flash mob dancing. And so what we did.
That is awesome.
We staged, so every department did their own routines. And then we staged flash mob dancing all throughout the city. And then we did a final one with the entire 100 people. And so we started to really get people moving and collaborating, because there's no greater collaboration than choreography, right?
Sure.
We got this great choreographer in, and we staged flash mobs. And that kicked off then work that they did with me around radical collaboration in the team to unlock, collective genius. That's how we kicked off the sessions. And it was just, honestly, everybody was ready. When you break the mindset down and you get the mindset ready and open, get those walls down, get rid of the ego, and people are just naked and vulnerable and fun in themselves, then you can actually start the real work. So I broke the mindset open, got them into the space, the headspace, and then we did the work. Often when you do team building or leadership, you'll do it at the end.
Yeah.
No, I did it at the beginning to get their mindsets
for sure
into play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You've got to move them from where they're at to where they need to be instantly if you want to get, if you're going to get something done. Yeah.
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, I've got footage of people dancing and doing like the most, like very stuffy occupations. Remember, bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Bureaucrats. Okay, very stuffy, like dealing with Parliament and Canberra, and that level.
But everybody has it in them. Everybody can be a kid if they allow themselves. I think that, as we're coming to a close, a couple things. One, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. But the thing that I think, and I'm guilty of it probably as well as a dad sometimes, is that you forget that being a child was euphoric because it was all based on curiosity and fun. It wasn't based on outcomes and data and numbers, and as they get older and school gets more serious and they've got to take tests and they've got to get into a university if they go that way, or TAFE or whatever they're doing, it sucks a little bit of the joy out of their life, right? And so, I think for me, we kind of started with this notion of humor and kind of poking fun at just ridiculous situations, whether it's my dad's funeral or blowing my startup up or whatever it was. And you probably have your 1,000 stories as well, that you've seen or you've been part of or you've experienced. And we all have. And I would say, if there was a big theme for me in this particular episode, it's really around, one, stop worrying about judgment. Adversity sucks. You got to deal with it. You can't put your head in the sand. But the sooner you can move it happen to me to for me, and that for me is fun, the quicker you're going to be more creative. You're going to bring your people along wherever you need to go, because they're going to see that you're not taking life too seriously and that it's okay to make a mistake and it's okay to move forward as a group. And it's okay to collectively be creative to solve these difficult problems. That was more than one take, I guess, on today's episode, but I feel like there's a lot there around, here's one of my mottos in life. And it's probably a bit morbid. I could die tomorrow. Why the F do I want to be totally hung up on something that really matters so little in the scheme of my life? And that was a product of my dad dying for me. That was, my wife hates it. She hates that I'm like that because that has other ramifications. But for me, that was a big thing. So anyhow, I'm going to kind of let you close it out here today as we bring down the.
Look, I think to your point, perspective is everything, and you choose how you view the world. You choose how you interact the world, and I think really prioritizing intentional moments of play in your life and flipping to doing that thing that you feel like doing least during those moments when you're most stressed out. Can I give you just a beautiful example? So. And this might sound crazy to people on the call. It might sound crazy to you all listening to me, but this is how I coach. This is how I work, right? I'm working with a leader right now whose immediate family member is terminally ill. And he found out that, she's terminally ill. And, we dealt with it and we worked on it. And then I met him the second time and he was just in a really dark place. And I noticed that it was raining outside. And I said, just trust me. Can you come outside with me for a second? And I said, what I want you to do, it was raining. I said, what I want you to do is I want you to come with me and we're going to go and we're going to just dance in the rain and jump in the puddles. I know you don't feel like doing it right now, but we're going to run it up and down. Let's go in this quiet place. Let's jump in puddles. Let's dance in the rain and let's just scream at the top of our lungs. Let's just get it out. Let's just dance and get it out. And I'll go first. And he goes, well, I'm not doing that. What if my staff see me? I said, we'll go in the laneway. Come on. And I just did it with him, I forced him to step into doing something that was completely, why would he do that?
Yeah.
Given what he was going through. And we finished, I'm going to get emotional. We finished the experience and he just started crying. And he said, V, he said, thank you so much for that. I need to get back there. These are the moments that I need. I was able just to let it out and let go and just breathe. So in a weird way, bringing that intentional moment of fun and play and refocusing his mind to something else in that moment elevated his level of optimism.
That is so beautiful.
Perspective.
Yeah.
And, I get to do that, James.
Yeah.
People take my hand and they do it with me. And it is just the biggest.
That's so beautiful. Just beautiful. Yeah.
So
and
that's
I think,
an example.
Well, listen, I can't add anything more to that. That's a beautiful example. So, next week, everyone, final episode of the season before the holiday break. embrace change and be bold. It's time to move forward. I think this guess of Warwick Fairfax, if you don't know the Fairfax family, just Google it, because there is a lot of information on that family. It is going to be a fantastic close of the season. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome week. And stay safe, Vanessa. Stay happy. And
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jane. Thank you.
I
See you
see
next
you
week.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.